Hi, this is David Williams. I'm here with Dana Catherine, a Christian singer songwriter. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thanks. I'm glad you could join me so we can talk a little bit. I'm familiar with some of your music and want to just learn a little bit more about you. Specifically, what I'll do is I'll be quiet for a moment and let you just dive in and kind of share your story with me. Tell me a little bit about, how you got started and when that, happened, and kind of work your way up to where you're at now with, I believe you stay in Nashville and you
hmm
call Nashville home. So just go ahead for the next, few minutes and share your story while, I listen and the audience listens.
My gosh, yeah, it's quite a long story, but I've learned to shorten it. So I grew up in New Jersey. Then my family and I moved to North Carolina when I was in middle school, and that's when I kind of wrote my first song. Was in middle school, but I always loved music. I was honestly more obsessed though with sports and school and getting good grades and all of that stuff, but I was always humming, always coming up with a song. I didn't even know what songwriting was. I just knew, like, hey, I listen to music on the radio, somebody must create these songs, I'll just follow the pattern, and, like, whatever's on my heart, I'll just put into a song. And so by senior year of I was gonna say college, of high school, I asked for a guitar for Christmas because I had never really played any type of instrument. And so I got that guitar, started really writing music, because obviously then I could play it for other people instead of doing it a cappella with no instrument. But I ended up going to UNC Chapel Hill, in Chapel Hill, North Carolina. I was going to be a doctor. That was what I was always going to do with my life because I always got very good grades. I figured I'm intelligent. I want to be, quote unquote, going places in life and use that intelligence. So I'm just going to do that. I'm going to do the normal thing. But college was very hard just because it was a very hedonistic culture, very pleasure seeking. Just, I always tell when I give talks to youth, I'm like, anything you hear in movies, about in movies or in music, like that is the cliche college culture that I was steeped in, that was surrounding me. And that made me really fall in love with God even more and really choose him, because I was always Christian, always Catholic, always loved my faith. But I really ran to God and to music. So those two things. And all of my music ended up becoming all about God. I was just writing songs all throughout those 4 years of college as I was growing to love God and know him more and more. And it's just so crazy. But by the end of college, senior year, I had just been for 4 years straight saying, God, what do you want me to do with my life? Because I realized I like faint at the sight, at least of my own blood. So I can't be a doctor. And I just felt, I just didn't feel like that's what the Lord was calling me to. I cared almost more about our spiritual lives than physical lives. And so by senior year, I had been praying for 4 years, God, what do you want me to do? And long story short, the Lord made it very clear at this concert one night, just a secular concert, that he wanted me to share all of my music I had been writing, because I never sang in front of anybody. This was 2014 at that point. And so I said, okay, God, you do what you can do and you make it happen somehow, because I don't sing in front of anybody. I don't even really enjoy singing in front of people because it's scary. And a month later, a man comes up to me in Wake Forest, North Carolina, at church, a man I don't even know. And he says, hey, I'm Ron. I happen to produce Christian music. I heard you play Christian music and you write it. Would you like to record a few songs with me? And so that senior year of college, miraculously, I ended up recording my first album. And I was released in 2015. And it was all the songs that I wrote throughout college that I never knew would be released to the world. And from then on, I just said, God, show me the next step. And I ended up getting signed to a record label, an independent record label. A few months later, I became a youth minister a few months later, because I was just asked to become a youth minister at our church after teaching the kids faith formation. And from there, that's how I became a speaker as well. And then a few years ago, the Lord just called me to do it full time. And I was like, okay, God, provide. And then he just did provide with events. And that's a big part of my ministry is live events. And yeah, and so then the Lord, last year, I was on a tour throughout the US where we played music in churches and did Eucharistic adoration and music during that. And I stopped in Nashville for one of those stops, and I had never been there. But from that moment on, the Lord called me to move to Nashville. So he really had me surrender absolutely everything in my life, even where I was living. And so I moved back in August, and it has been awesome. I'm now an independent artist, which is wonderful. So I have full control over all of my music and what I'm doing with it. And so I just released two singles on my own this past year. And one of them is Surrender Song, and the other one is Right Where You Want Me. And it's been beautiful. A lot of opportunities have opened up in Nashville with other record labels and stuff that I would have never dreamed of. So yeah, that's where I am now. It's all just step by step, God showing me what to do and me saying yes. So I don't know.
Well, that's cool. You did a much better job of your journey than I would of mine. So, if I tell my faith journey, it would not go as quickly and as well as you just did. So,
Thank you.
but that's cool because I haven't heard the story. I mean, and so it was really cool to hear the story. One thing I'm getting used to is you are my first full official Zoom recording. So what I'm trying to do is figure out where to look, because I know where to look at the camera up there,
Yeah.
but then looking over at you, I have to kind of look down and like,
Yeah.
okay, so that's it's kind of new to me. I'm used to doing my own video recordings. But this Zoom thing, you're going to be my good trial run here to like, okay, I've got to because I've such a habit, I'm looking at you on my screen and it just makes more sense to look at you. But with that said, you mentioned in there Surrender Song.
Yeah.
That's one that I came across that I like the style. It's just really cool. And I shared that with my married daughters and shared it with my parents and my sister, and it was really cool. And this was just over the last few days, and so which is part of what sparked me reaching out to you to do this. So tell me a little bit about Surrender Song, because you write your own music, and obviously that song comes from somewhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, all of my music, there's no way it can't be connected to my spirituality and the journey that the Lord has me on, wherever I am in life. So, in 10 years, my music is always going to be rooted in what God's shown me right then. So, um, really, it came about a few years ago. I was probably like 2 years ago now, I was leading a retreat. So, I am a singer songwriter. That is by far my first gift, my greatest gift. But then I also give talks and I do stuff like that. And so I was going to lead a retreat over that weekend, and it was about surrender. And it's funny because my whole theme, because it's just my heart for my music and my ministry, has always been trust and surrender. Kind of like Saint Therese of Lisieux, who was, like, if I have a good father in heaven and I'm his child, he's going to take care of me, and he's going to be the elevator to heaven, and he's going to do everything. Really, all I have to do is say yes. And that has always been my spirituality, really since 2015, when I had to keep saying yes to all of these crazy things God was asking me to do. And so I was thinking about that one day a few years ago, because it had been a few years into my ministry at that point. And I thought, my gosh, I had started this whole thing having such trust in the Lord, and I was all in with God, and nobody knew me, like aside from just my normal friends and family, and I had no recognition, and nobody knew my music. But I was so happy and I was so surrendered to God, and I wanted to say yes to anything. And then I was thinking, am I at that place now, or have I grabbed on to certain things in my life that maybe just I'm holding on to a little bit too tightly? Am I half in with God, half out? Because Saint Therese, that same day I read a quote from Saint Therese of Lisieux that said, you can't be half a saint, you have to be a whole saint or nothing at all. And I always say, like, I don't know about you, but I want to be a saint, because I believe everybody in heaven, right, is a saint, whether it's a big S or a small s. So I'd better be a saint at the end of my life. And it's just, I ended up writing this song very quickly. Whenever something, I write a song in like 30 minutes to an hour, I know it's by like definitely the Holy Spirit. And it's just all about coming back to that, where it's like, okay, God, I am all in with whatever you are asking me to do. If you're a father of love, then make me a child of trust, like I'm supposed to be. Yeah. And so honestly, it was one of the first songs in my career where, I mean, every single person connects to it in some way. Like when I start playing that song, even when it's just on my guitar and there's no production or anything, people connect to it. And so that's got to be something from God, you know. People really need this song. So
That is cool. That is very cool. I'm gonna look here. Let's see. Does that how does that change on your screen? Do you see me small and you big, or
no.
I'm just looking. I was just changed on the screen because what I want you to do is try. And I'm new to using this, so I got to practice with it. But I want you to, if you want to play all the Surrender song, or you just
Yeah.
want to play a little bit of it. But I know you got your guitar there, so I
Yeah.
encourage people to check you out on YouTube and hear the really good audio of it. But what I was trying to figure out how to do, hopefully people will look over and focus on you while I sit here and enjoy it with them. Like I said, this is all new to me, but as far as recording like this, because what I don't want to do is change the view, and then it's like my big picture, my big face is on here, and it's like she's playing the song.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I'm like, I don't know how
Yeah, there's
to.
something called speaker view and something up here, but I'll be able to look later at that one clip. So I'm not going to take my chances here
Okay.
and mess it up. So I'm just going to sit back and enjoy. And so, however much you want to do, if you want to do the whole song, it's totally up to you. So go for it.
Okay. Yeah, so everybody can listen on YouTube. I have the produced version on there, and then also the acoustic version, and then I'm also on Amazon and Spotify and iTunes and all that stuff. So yeah, here is some of the Surrender song. I've been thinking about a lot these days. I've been thinking about everything. I've been thinking about when my heart's out. Is it all yours or am I holding it back? If you're a father of love, make me a child of trust as I sing that song to you. Like, oh na na, oh na na na, oh na na, oh na na na, oh na na, oh na na na. This is my surrender song. Not for so long I've been holding on song. Now I'm giving it all back to you. Na 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 to you. Na 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 na. This is my surrender song. Now I'm living in complete abandon. 'Cause I'm giving it all back to you. Na 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 to you. I've been living with one foot in your grace and the other deep in earthly things. I've been letting the fear what won't be conquer the hopes of what you have for me. If you're a father of love, make me a child of trust as I sing my song to you. Like, oh na na, oh na na na, oh na na, oh na na na, oh na na, oh na na na, yeah. This is my surrender song. Not for so long I've been holding on song. Now I'm giving it all back to you. Na 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 to you. Na 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 na. This is my surrender song. Now I'm living in complete abandon. 'Cause I'm giving it all back to you. Na 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 to you. Na 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 na. This is my surrender song. Not for so long I've been holding on song. Now I'm giving it all back to you. Na 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 to you. This is my surrender song. Now I'm living in complete abandon. 'Cause I'm giving it all back to you. Na 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 to you. I've been thinking about a lot these days. I've been thinking about everything. So yeah, I figured I'd play the whole thing because it's a very short
Oh
song.
yeah, it's less than 3 minutes, and so
Exactly.
well, that reminded me of you've got Instagram Live
I do.
coming up. So tell me, because I'm gonna end up putting this, trying to get this audio out. Obviously, we're doing this on Thursday, and your Instagram Live is on Friday. But since for purposes of people finding out the date and all that stuff, tell us how folks can find you on Instagram and a little bit
Yeah.
about the Instagram Live.
So people can find me on Instagram by going to Dana Catherine Music, and that's Catherine with a C. So just look up Dana Catherine Music, and you can follow along. And it's the same thing for Facebook. Look up Dana Catherine Music. Basically anywhere, look up Dana Catherine Music. But I have figured out that since I can't be doing live events right now, doing Instagram lives, so just from my home to everybody else, streaming to everybody else's home, has worked really well, and people find a lot of joy in it. And so on Friday, I don't exactly know what date that actually
April
is.
the 3rd.
Okay, all
April
right.
3rd.
Losing track of days. I'm never good with remembering dates. At 7:30 p.m., I will have a live Instagram show. So if people just follow me on there, I'll pop up right away at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And probably for like 30 to 45 minutes, I'll play some of my songs. Some people have asked for cover songs, so Christian songs or just regular pop songs for me to sing as well. And so, yeah, it's just fun. And at the end of it, we generally just pray for everybody's intentions, and because I can't just do this stuff and then not like encourage people or pray with them. So yeah, it's been beautiful. So
That's awesome. So it's Friday, April the 3rd. What time Eastern time?
7:30 p.m.
7:30 p.m. Eastern time. So that's cool. And then finding you on YouTube, is that also Dana Catherine Music?
Yeah, Dana Catherine Music. Basically anywhere if you look up Dana Catherine Music, Dana Catherine with a C.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, before we wrap up, one of the things that I heard you say a lot, which I can't ignore bringing up, obviously the music, singer, songwriter, that's important, but I kept hearing you over and over, talk about your faith and talk about God and talk about his will. And when you mentioned the surrender song about surrendering to him, and obviously you're a lot younger than I am, so I love it when I see the younger generation just being on fire. Just you've got that, something about you that not everybody in your age group. Fortunately, there are many, and I'm sure you have many friends that are on fire as well. But then there are others that are still kind of lost in life and kind of struggling. So as we wrap this up, and I know you get this, obviously for you, you're talented. You've been blessed with the music and the singing and the songwriting, but ultimately I know that you understand, it's all about God and it points back to him. So as we close this out, just share with me that strong faith that I kept hearing, come through, because I couldn't listen to you speak and not hear how important that was as a part of your life, because you just kept coming back to it. So as we close out, I'd like for you to share anything that you have to say, not only about your own faith or how you would encourage folks, not only in your own age group, but those that are younger or older. Just talk about that as we wrap this up.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you heard that, because I realized, I think over my whole life, but especially over the past probably decade, I've realized every time you look inward or every time you try to glorify yourself or focus on yourself or lift yourself up to be recognized, it just ends up feeling empty, and you realize, wow, I need more than just myself. It's just, when you look at yourself, there's not a lot there if that's all you're doing. And so because of realizing that and the lack of peace that I always felt when I would try to glorify myself in whatever way, I was like, there's got to be another way. And thankfully I had always grown up with a beautiful Catholic, Christian family. And so I looked to God. But I would just encourage people, if people are feeling a lack of peace, because this is how it's worked for me, if they're feeling a lack of peace or anxiety over things in their life, it's probably because the Lord is trying to get them to look at him instead. Because I think I've realized when I have a lack of peace and a growth in anxiety in my heart, a lot of times it's because I'm not prioritizing things correctly, and I'm putting myself or putting money or popularity or whatever it is above God. And so if you really just put him first, you just try by, for me, it's aside from the sacraments, aside from the church, it's just prayer every day, talking to God. That is the only way I've gotten to know him so deeply, is just by starting with, okay, I'm going to try 10 minutes a day talking to God. And then it's like, this sounds crazy, but it's almost like a drug, right? It's like, you're addicted to the peace and the beauty that you find in that relationship. And so I always just encourage people, if they maybe aren't finding their foundation in God, and it's very hard for them at this point, just try 5 or 10 minutes a day of praying and just persevere in that. And eventually God's going to lead you to his heart. And you realize like there's no flaw in God, like there isn't a human. So yeah, that's what I would say. Just encourage people to really trust and persevere, and the Lord's going to lead them. If they want to find God, they will find him.
That's cool. Yeah, that's very good to hear, because I've been at different points in my life, and there is a peace that only exists in God, and that's what I think our human nature, people that are searching, that have never known him, like what you said. You said, if about talking to him, about looking to God, and for those that don't have that peace in their soul, and they can't put their hands around it, and they can't and then for those of us who do try to walk with God, what happens, as you know, is if you get weak in your prayer, if you get weak in your relationship with God, then there's an emptiness you begin to feel, and it's like you get slapped in the face, and it's like God never leaves you.
Exactly.
We will step back from him, but he's always there for us. And it's like, God, how could I not see you right there in front of me? Because that peace that you feel, like right now with the circumstances going on in the world, I have a certain amount of peace that I don't think I would have as well without God. And I know by hearing this in your voice, I know that you agree with me on this, but I don't see how people can get along without God, right? I don't, like, how can you wake up every day and just be yourself and not believe in something, greater than you, or greater than, the next human that's this, great person. But like you said, God is perfect, and so it's just amazing to, to hear your journey, to hear the part about God. So I don't want to ruin the beautiful story that you just shared, so I'm not going to keep talking. But this was my first Zoom recording now that is so popular. Then there's other than doing some test recording, but this is the first official one. So I got to figure out, like, okay, where do I look and how do I record this? But I want to thank you for joining me. I'm going to stop the recording, and then you and I can chat for just a moment longer. Everyone, thanks for being here. Dana, Catherine, I'm going to let you close out the words again with your YouTube channel and things of that nature. And then when you're done, I'll stop the recording.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was really fun. Yeah, you guys can just find me at danacatherinemusic.com for any events or anything like that. And then if you go on Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or anywhere, YouTube, just look up at Dana Catherine Music. Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.